Hey guys, happy day off of work for me. I know it's kind of late in the day for me to still be in my pajamas and for me to be doing a Devo, but I've been thinking a lot about this one after talking to Whoopi about some of the stuff I'm struggling with in my life. I thought that instead of doing a regular devotion like I have been, that I would go ahead and share my testimony with all of you. This isn't something that's easy for me to do at all, and I'm struggling with it, but I think that by showing how God has worked in my life and how He's still working, that it might be inspirational for some of you who are struggling as well. And just for some of those of you who don't know me as well as others, it might teach you a little bit more about me just by seeing where I've been in my life. So I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to go ahead and use pictures so it's not just me talking the whole time. But yeah, thank you for watching, and if you have any questions or anything, just let me know. My spiritual journey obviously started at Sharon Camp when I was very young. I've attended my whole life, as my dad and his siblings, my grandma and grandpa, had as well. I grew up in the ideals that were taught at Sharon since it started over 100 years ago. And my dad's dad was a preacher, so I learned a lot of those things as I grew up as well. Sharon Camp was a huge constant in my life. The people that I'd grown up with were always there. They never left my side. And every year when we would go home, we might not talk, but as soon as we would come back, all the pieces of the puzzle would get put back together, and it was like we'd never been apart. So Sharon Camp was just kind of my huge landmark. It was like home for me. It was always a place that I could come back to. And I had so many friends. I had such a huge part of the camp. I always helped. I always wanted to be there with my dad. It was just a huge bonding experience for me. And growing and learning about God was all from there. Everything I knew was just from there. Even some relationships that I was in were from there. So I think that a huge part of myself is based where Sharon Camp is. 2011 was my last year in the youth group. It was the best year that I ever had, I think, with so many good memories, and I would never trade that for the world. But shortly after that summer, I met somebody who influenced my life in a very horrific way, and that was my ex-boyfriend. At first, things were really great. I was a senior in high school. I was proud of who I was as a person and all the things I'd accomplished as far as school and personally. I applied to Ohio State. I was accepted. I also was accepted as a member of the honors program, and I was just overjoyed with how lucky I was and how blessed I was, and I couldn't wait for my life to begin and become who I wanted to be. I graduated in May with honors, and I couldn't wait to go to college. I attended my first Ohio State game. I met new friends. I'd done things that I'd never done before, and I was so excited. But then my ex and I got back together shortly after, and things just fell apart. The abuse started, and it was terrible. My health was deteriorating. I wasn't eating or sleeping. I had no friends anymore. He'd isolated me from everybody, even my family, and he got me into drugs and alcohol. This is something I have such a hard time talking about because it's so extreme, and it's hard to look back and see how brainwashed I was and how much he took away from me. I wasn't allowed to do anything. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't even go to class. My grades were horrible. I was just miserable, and I couldn't figure out why. I thought it was all me, and that was probably the hardest part, was trying to figure out what I could do to fix things and never be able to. I was at such a low point in my life, trying to be a better person and do things differently, and the whole time it was really me just needing to realize that I didn't need to be with him anymore. And we were together for 1.5 years, so it was a long time. It was a very long year of college, and eventually my counselor came and told me, she's like, "You're not gonna make it if you don't get out of this." And half-heartedly I decided to leave. My parents were sweet enough to come and pick me up, and they took me home for a week. And slowly I realized all the horrible things that I'd been through, and I eventually cut off all contact with him. That was in February. So I have some fresh wounds, and that's how long it's been since I've talked to him last, February 23rd to be exact. And that's what I'm still struggling with, is trying to get over that situation. When I was finally able to go back to school, I had a great group of friends there waiting for me. They opened their arms and led me to their church, and I never stopped going. Through them, God showed me his great love and how he would wash me clean of all my sins in my past that I was struggling with. And he did. So when I went home, I was so ready to start over and be a better person, and that led me back to Sharon Camp when Kristen invited me to be a counselor. Being a counselor has shown me how to use what I've been through to help other people. God has blessed me with an understanding and love and patience for people that I never had before. All the things I never thought God was capable of, he has shown me and proven me wrong, and he's given me so much more. He's given me wonderful people in my life that are irreplaceable, and he's shown me that even though I wouldn't go back through what I've been through, that I wouldn't be the same person I am without it, and almost made me thankful for it. So I know that you've all probably read 1 Corinthians 13 and what it says about love, that love is patient and kind and never failing. And I know that we label that at weddings and with our boyfriend or girlfriend, and I just want to remind you, read that and remember it as a letter to us from God saying how much he loves us and how his love is for us, that it's patient and kind and that it never fails. Because when we stray, God patiently waits for us to come back, and his love is so unfailing that he will put us back together no matter how bad it is and no matter how many times we try and push away. I've learned this from experience, and I'm so grateful for him because he saved me. He brought me out of the darkness, and sometimes I look back and don't even know how I ended up here, but I know I did because of God. So if you're feeling lonely or hurt or feeling like you are the only one that's ever strayed on their walk, just remember there are people out there who have a story. Even counselors, people that have walked longer than you have, we've all have our stories where we strayed. And I'm sure that there are other counselors out there that are willing to share their stories with you too. But this is mine, and I hope that it inspired you a little bit. And if you ever want to talk about what you're going through or even what I've gone through, I'm so willing to talk to you about it. Just get a hold of me. So if you watch this whole thing and you're listening to this right now, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. My walk has been kind of difficult, and I think this has helped me a lot with the wounds that I'm trying to let God heal right now. So thank you, and I hope you have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow.